Gotta rank 'em all. Pokemon.
Welcome to Gotta Rank 'em All, the Pokemon ranking show, where Chris
That's me.
and myself every normal week get a guest and a random list of 10 Pokemon. This is a special episode though, so we decided to get a guest. And although it's been a little while, there was a lot of game to play here. Go over, spoil, if you will, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. We're here with our good buddy, Holden Hintz.
Guys, what an unlikely trio we are. Just gathering together around the campfire, talking about some new Pokemon. Man, I am hyped as all hell. Thank you guys for having me.
Hell yeah.
Oh, bro, thanks for joining.
Glad you're here. We are the most unlikely trio to talk about Pokemon imaginable.
Who would have guessed?
Absolutely nobody ever. Yeah, it's not like we have dozens of episodes of a show talking about all Pokemon in existence.
Yes, not like I've been on maybe like 4 or 5 of them.
But yeah, we're here to do a big spoiler cast on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. We all beat the game. We've all had time to have our fill of exploring the Paldea region. I guess we'll start with early impressions and then we'll just swim around, because much like this game doesn't tie you into a path in any way, shape, or form. So we're just gonna kind of swim all around this whole region and enjoy ourselves. But Holden, what are your early impressions, your overall general thoughts?
So early impressions. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna catch everything. I was like, I'll complete the Pokédex. I'm gonna catch everything. And I literally spent an hour in the first area before you even made it to the academy. And I'm like, this feels like I'm spending too much time doing this. So I was like, never mind. I'm just gonna do my own thing. Once I made it to the academy, I was like, oh, I'm worried that this is gonna be a lot of the game, and this is really like dry, and I'm not actually enjoying myself at all. But then I learned you never have to go back, so I never did, and just charted my own path. I went counterclockwise around the map. You start on the bottom. I always made sure I was facing north on my map because it gets confusing otherwise if you're trying to figure out where stuff is. So I started. You start at the bottom. That's where your home is, and so I went counterclockwise around. I learned that I ended up with the 5th gym leader being the bakery boo. Her name is Katie, and she's supposed to be the first one. She's the bug gym leader. She's supposed to be the first gym leader. So I had like level 45 Pokemon against like level 8. So I learned maybe I was supposed to go the other way. Nevertheless, I still had a great time. I liked juggling the 3 main tasks, which are like the star bosses, the gym leaders, and the Titan Pokemon. Like, that's kind of cool. There's never been a Pokemon game that I've ever played that has like that kind of option, like to be able to like just be like, you do this and then this, and you're still progressing. I at least did one of them every single time I booted up the game, and it felt like I was progressing the game, and it felt like a good time. So I appreciated the game for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we all had one of those moments where we got to something that was supposed to be done early, way too. Mine was Brassius, the grass badge, the second gym. I wound up doing that gym when I was like also in the level 40s or 50s and just walked through it, no problem.
I don't think I had anything where I was like super over leveled or anything. But I was also doing them like, if you look on the map, it tells you basically the recommended order because they're numbered like 1, 2, whatever. So I was jumping all over the place, just kind of doing them in order.
I think if I'm not wrong, I think the number is the order that you do them in.
They only pop up after you do them? Well, then maybe
Yes.
I was just jumping around to ones that felt right. I don't know. I feel like my escalation of levels was like perfect. So maybe
Cool.
I just did it in the perfect order.
Yeah. Well, you're just a perfect Pokemon player. What can you say?
Yeah, perfect trainer.
Perfect trainer. I actually did. I guess according to this Bulbapedia page, I did the last gym leader. I think 5th. The ice gym leader Grusha. So she actually kicked my ass like twice. Because she had a bear tick that just like my team could not handle. Like it was a bear tick that was super strong with like earthquake, and an earthquake for whatever reason my team at the time just was like super susceptible to ground type, and I just like, oh no. So I had to rebuild my team entirely to take her on, and that was like a really good feeling because I actually fell in love with a with a mon that has seen a lot of hate on God Rank 'em All on this very same feed. And I agree, he's not the cutest. His name is Grimmsnarl, and he is a menace. I just kind of like, I absolutely grinded to get evolve my Grimmsnarl. I got the right moves on him. The main purpose for him is because he's like one of the best screeners in the competitive scene. So I put on light screen and reflect. And basically, the idea behind that is that if you have someone who's a heavy hitter, they hit for like half the damage. So I started with Fuecoco and ended up with a Skeledirge. So my Skeledirge wasn't getting one hit KO'd by this Beartic anymore, even though they were around the same level, because Reflect made that physical damage in half. And so then I was able to get Fire Blast off, even though I was the slower mon. So it was, my entire team wasn't really based on speed at that point, because I just would start with my screener, and Grimmsnarl could also hit really hard too. So if I didn't need to throw up screens with him, he'd still come out first and just do either Play Rough or Dark Pulse. And it was a good time, man. I set up my team a little bit differently each and every game, and the screeners are it's a very fun setup.
Hell yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think I've ever used those screen moves solo. Certainly I used it back when I was doing competitive stuff a long time ago, but
Yeah, absolutely not. So Holden, glad to hear you're part of the Fuecoco gang. Chris, your starter for everyone listening, if they haven't listened to our regular episodes.
Wait, Coco. No. It was what's the first one's name? The one that turns into Quaxwell, Quackwavel, Quaxley.
Quaxley.
And
yeah.
What kind of name is Quackwavel? Is that how you pronounce it?
Quackwavel, yeah.
That's not a great name, I'll be honest.
We looked up the name origin because we ranked them. I forget. I know it was Quack Quack.
Yeah. I think I bet I can find it here.
In Japanese,
some
it's
carnival thing.
Yes, in Japanese it's Wanavel, which is from Wave and Carnival, which I feel like is Wanavel is a little bit better. It like kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit more. But it's Aqua in Carnival, and Portuguese for duck sounds Quackwa. Yeah, I guess.
It doesn't roll off the tongue.
No.
Though in the same way.
No. Wanavel could have just came straight from Japanese to English.
Yeah, probably.
But I was very pleased with Skeledirge. I definitely I liked Fuecoco the best, and I was hoping that we'd get some something a little bit more close to like Mega Swampert, like big and beefy. But I ended up loving the concept behind Skeledirge with the little bird on his nose, and his special move is really, really good. It is Torch Song. It's really good because he's super powerful, like one of the best like final evolution starters competitively that we've ever seen. And so you could literally just hit up Torch Song and just keep boosting up your special attack and keep boosting it up, and calm nature, and you just freaking you would easily become a sweeper, even though he's kind of a slow boy. With screens up, you're good. You just sweep a whole team. Just keep on spamming either that, or I would also spam a classic Shadow Ball.
Now we're talking a lot about making sure we've got the right movesets. They made a huge change to TMs this generation, which they have left alone for a little while. How do we feel about the whole grinding for Pokemon parts to make your TMs? It's a system I didn't engage with too much, but didn't seem terrible. I never felt like I had to go and try and grind to get whatever the TM I wanted to make was, but I also wasn't making like a lot of them.
Yeah, I almost never made TMs. I don't know why they would make it where they're one-time use things. Like I would prefer if they were like it requires more materials or is more challenging to get them, but you just get them once, still just have them forever. Because I mean, if I was making competitive mons, it would be annoying to have yet another thing that I need to grind for if I need certain moves on all these different mons.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a stupid mechanic that like you get Wiglet Sand, or you get Impidimp Hair, or you get Oranguru Fur. Like it's just I get that it's like supposed to be like cute and unique to the specific like mon that it comes from, but at the same time it just like it's just needlessly complex, like being like, okay, well now I got to look up where a Draforix spawns, and get a draft rig, and now I got to look up. I got to kill a certain amount of them to collect their to collect their. I guess maybe they're what is it, trying to be more like Monster Hunter, right? You're getting the scales from the monster to like turn it into some kind of value. I mean, obviously, making like dragon armor out of like a certain kind of like monster is way cooler than like it's literally just a fake currency that you're now purchasing or creating TM. I would prefer just a TM shop. It's just infinitely better.
It's a really good thought, because like they had the much more Monster Hunter-esque Pokemon game earlier in the year.
Right.
I wonder if that mechanic would have felt more at home in Legends Arceus over Scarlet Violet.
Totally.
Yeah, probably. I mean, just off of how much easier it is to catch them on in Legends Arceus. Like, if you just drop materials, I think that would work a lot better than here, where you have to get into battles and kill them or catch them. Do they still give you materials if you catch them? I don't know.
Yes. You still get the materials if you catch them. My one of my other favorite mons that got trashed on the show that I recently learned how to actually pronounce it. It's G Holden Go. If you catch him in the chest form, you get a lot more gold coins, which obviously is what you need to evolve it into that one of gimme ghouls. And so that kind of mechanic works the same way. I do wish it wasn't such a ridiculous amount. 999 is a lot of, especially when you just find one that only gives you like 2, and you're like, I gotta find so many of these. There's a few different kind of dumb requirements, but I mean, Pokemon's kind of I'm accepting that Pokemon has always had dumb requirements for evolving stuff. So
yeah, at least a handful every generation.
Yeah, no, and my complaint was like, how are some of these mons? How would you ever know? That's the way to evolve. Like, if I didn't have the internet, if I didn't have a guide, is there anything in the game that would tell me that? And that's a complaint that will continue on. I think there needs to be some kind of NPC that you talk to and be like, actually, you will need 999, and on the next time you level it up, you're gonna get a surprise. Something that would allude to it. Otherwise, like I would never know what these coins are for. I wouldn't even know G Holden Go exists if the internet didn't exist, because I don't think any trainer has one.
I would have been trying to find some kind of like special shop, right, that like only accepts gimme ghoul coins or something.
Right, that would make more sense.
My connection to that weird evolution thing this gen was Pawmot, where like I had a Pawmi for just ever, the little Pikachu electric fighting guy. I had the second form for forever, and I fought our rival, whose name I can't think of right now. Who was our battling rival?
The champion?
Yeah. She had a Pawmot in one fight, and I'm like, it evolves again? How? Fucking how? And I had to went to go Googling, and you know what? There probably is an NPC somewhere in the world that might lead you to a hint on it, but I feel like NPC conversations are really disconnected this generation in Pokemon.
Yes.
And like what I want to be doing is not near anybody, out in a field somewhere, surrounded by wild Pokemon, completing my objectives, not like going into towns talking to people and, oh, well, make sure to walk outside with your Pokemon a lot. And
yeah, you have to walk 1,000 steps and Let's Go mode to evolve it. What the hell?
Yeah. And Let's Go mode is like,
it's a waste. It's a waste.
It doesn't feel like it really is doing much.
Chris, I heard that you were a little hotter on it. Can you please tell me why you liked it?
No, opposite. I used it like 2 times, and then I was like, whatever.
Never mind.
So I don't remember who was super hot on it. Somebody on the show was. I thought it was Ryan, but I guess it must have been our guest.
No, I was a little warm at the start of the game, because I think it is helpful at the low levels to throw something out, and I think by the end of the game it slows down exploration is the biggest problem, because you have to walk slowly to keep your Pokemon out and doing its thing, where it's just slowing down the pace of the things you really want to do. Early game, it can be useful for getting some of those XP buffs or getting items hidden behind stronger Pokemon. Just send your guy out to go grab it real quick or something. But by the end game, I was not using it at all.
It probably is good for grinding for like the fur and like nails and thorns, like the actual material. It's probably good for that if you just go into open field and just like send them out, like one that's kind of super effective. That way you can just quickly, you don't have to engage in battle with like 5 different mon to get, whatever 9 or 12 material that you need. That's probably maybe what it was designed for. But otherwise, you just get so little XP versus actually battling it. You get so much more for actually battling it. Like, because when I learned I needed to grind to catch up to that ice gem leader, I found the high like the bigger Pokemon that evolve that give more XP, and I'd notice that I was like, oh, when I battle them, like this is like 5 to 10 times more actually engaging and beating them in a real battle versus the let's go mode. So I'm like, I just couldn't fathom why I would ever use that.
Yeah, and it's a huge difference. It's like more than half the XP lost, it feels
Right.
like.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be just like a convenience thing. It is, I mean, it's their replacement for just being able to throw Pokeballs and catch Pokemon in Arceus.
Sure. Sure.
You just get the XP for doing that. But like, because they cut the XP that you get so much, and I understand why they do that, because it just really quickly, I guess, if they didn't. But I also don't really know what the problem with that is, if that's the way that you chose to engage with the game. But I don't know. It feels like a half measure to try and like capture that energy of Arceus where you didn't need to engage in battle all the time. But I only like twice because I don't know. Pretty useless.
Yep. So did you guys like diversify your playthrough? You're constantly bouncing between these star bosses, the gym battles, the Titans, or were you like, because I did the first Titan first. I did a cloth first.
Right. Me
And
too.
when I got the upgrade for our ride along, our pet, our motorcycle Pokemon,
Mhm.
I immediately knew that I had to just do the Titans until I got all the mobility things unlocked.
Mm.
How
So
did
you
that go with like going up to um what is the Don big whale guy? I think he's the hardest one.
Yeah,
Dondozo.
Dondozo. That was the only one that I had to break away really and do a little bit of grinding or some other content before I could get it done. Everything else though wasn't too bad. And to be honest, I say like hardcore, just do them. I probably broke out and did a couple gyms here or there, but like the Titans were the thing I was focusing my energy on.
Yeah, I definitely tried to juggle them. I felt like I was having more fun if I was like do a Titan when, because like I said, I only played for probably about an hour at a time throughout the past few months. So I'd make sure I'd have my one objective. I'm like, hey, I want to do this Titan one. So obviously you have more gym battles than anything else. So I try to juggle, and sometimes I'd do 2 gym battles in a row just to kind of keep everything in motion. But eventually I just ended up with the 8th one at the end. But I definitely understand the idea behind upgrading your travel, your rider, because that does help exploration, and that's like a lot of the fun of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, for
absolutely.
sure. I also was just bouncing around. I like I said, I ended up with a pretty good like trajectory of levels. So I mean, the Dawn was maybe like the last thing I did. The big.
Yeah, he was tricky. He was like hard to find too. Like after he like leaves you and you have to kind of chase him down. I was like, there was more Dondozo in the water that weren't the big one. I'm like, well, that one looks big. Is that it? And I would just like start battling just normal sized Dondozo. I'm like, what the hell? Where's this
They're
guy
all
at?
pretty big.
Yeah, they're all like
Turns out they're
larger
whales.
whale dudes. Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, I had, looking at my map, I had all 5 of the Titans done before I did 10 of any possible options on them.
Yeah.
So I was really going for it because I thought we were going to get like true flying. We got gliding, but the climbing was also so important without true flying. Like it was.
The climbing's everything. That's how you find like all the little nooks and crannies.
Mm-hmm.
And
going from getting flying in Arceus to not exactly flying, I don't know. I kind of like how this keeps exploration more interesting because you're not just flying over everything. You're forced to interact with it maybe at least a little bit. More things might catch your eye. But also performance wise, it probably could it take that far of a draw distance? If you fly high up enough, does the whole island of Paldea just disappear?
Well, even in Arceus, it was still a glide, right? It's just you didn't have the drop off. Like Miraidon and Koraidon drop off really quickly from the glide. I believe you get like a jump up with the bird Braviary. Like it jumps up, but then it's still a glide. It's just a consistent
while you're
glide.
moving, but can't you like stop and then fly back up midair and keep going again?
I don't remember.
It's been just long enough, but certainly the drop off's not as bad.
Yeah.
And I will say that the Path of Legend storyline is definitely like the most compelling. I feel like that's out of the 3 storylines, it definitely is the one where I was like, oh, I want to see how this resolves, because Homeboy and his big dog, like, I mean, it's a Pokemon story, so I imagine it was gonna recover, but it still was like, we don't see very often in the main games. Like, that's more like an anime thing. But like the fact that his like Mabostiff was like ill and like did not want to battle or like live life, and like he's like, this is the only hope I have to like being with my best friend again. Like, that's like, oh hey, that's like a actual heart tugging story. Good job.
Yeah, it's like
emotional investment.
Yeah, it's like I think they did a good job in general writing like some fun characters and like making these engaging stories that you want to experience more so than other Pokemon games. Like, I feel like the only other comparison is like the end story in Black and White is pretty good. But like otherwise, I can't think of like a really compelling Pokemon story. But it is somewhat bludgeoned with a hammer by not having voice acting. It's awkward.
I've heard you say that on the show before, and I was like playing the game and I was like, no, I mean, this is what I'm used to. And then in the post game content, while you're running around, there's talking going on. There's like text underneath, and it's like, I'm playing the game. How am I going to read text while I'm out doing stuff too? Like, if it just would make so much more sense to have actual voice acting, like talking over the spot. And I was like, damn, Chris was right. Like, this game does need some voice acting.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to voice act, every NPC or anything, but I feel like those cutscenes, and especially the ones that are automatically going, like with the academy leader or whatever, his speech at the beginning, and it's just like auto scrolling through, but there's no words. It's really
right. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And there's so much good. They actually do have some great design for gym leaders, star bosses. Like, I can just imagine hearing Kofu. He's the water badge. With like he's got like a unibrow and he's got like an eyebrows on top of that. I can just imagine his voice being just real, being like, "Oh, you retrieved my wallet. Now you gotta outbid this guy. Good luck, chump." Like something like that would just give his just take this game to the next level of being like, "Oh, this was like a cool, great like Pokemon game. Now this is just like this is a new standard for Pokemon," rather than being like, "Yeah, it's good direction, but it's a lot of the same."
Yeah.
Yeah, we can always hope they'll listen for the next one. Because if the Pokemon Company does anything, it's listen and iterate on its systems.
And wait to actually do anything substantive for 4 generations.
Yeah, I mean, they listen to people that said Dunsparce needs a evolution, and then we got Dunsparce.
Yeah, Dunsparce, great name. Not a great mon.
Terrible. It's like for people who are like really diehard Dunsparce fans, I just feel so bad for them. It's like, oh, just more of the Pokemon I love. Great.
So this is why I don't ask for Shuckle evolution. Pretty perfect. So they could only make him worse.
That's fair, and they definitely could make him worse.
Could absolutely go worse. What do we feel about the Team Star storyline?
I like Penny. I like her. I love her fucking music. Her boss music.
Yeah.
So freaking
yes.
Yeah. Very good boss music. Were we expecting that twist? Because I was not. I didn't see that coming.
I kind of forgot about Penny until like the end, and I was like, oh, that's right. I do keep seeing you a lot. Yeah. You are somebody that's actually like relevant to this story, because I was just like confused at first. I was like, oh, this is the person that's like head of Team Star, and they haven't met her yet. But once they like kind of outed themselves as like the anti-bully group, I was like, okay, I'm kind of on board with this.
Yeah, their whole arc is weird. It's interesting, but like, I don't know, what is the conclusion at the end there? It's like Team Star can still exist, but they can't really. It's because they're an anti-bully group, so it's like, oh, we like that. Yeah, that's good. But also like, you can't just not come to school and run your little games all around
right
campus.
so they made it more of like an official thing. So instead of being like a rogue rebel group, it's like Team Star now has like actual like recruitment centers where they like bring trainers in and they like turn it into a force for good rather than like anarchy and like yeah they kind of militarized Team Star a little bit. But it's way more interesting than like Team Shout or like whatever they've done for the past like 4 or 5 like Team Rocket like iterations. This is definitely the most interesting, like, and just even like the 5 of them having their own, like, it really felt diverse. Like they felt like more gym leaders, which is cool. So really we got like 13 gym leaders,
Yeah, well, didn't they give you a badge, right?
Yeah, they all have like these like fake makeshift badges that they made because they're like want to be gym leaders, but I mean they're still pretty good. Atticus, he's the poison gym leader. I had to take him on I think 2 or 3 times just because like he just kept kicking my ass. Again, for whatever reason, like ground and poison were just like two really things I was susceptible to. And when I had to fight his Starmobile, it's like the Starmobile is like not a real Pokemon. It's just like an iteration of Reveroom. And so it had just like this, it had noxious torque and it just freaking kept slamming my people. And I was like, no. So I had to kind of learn how to deal with that.
Yeah, I do. I mentioned Penny's music, but all of the Team Star music, like the boss music and even the regular like peons music is really good. And obviously their catchphrase, greatest catchphrase ever, Hasta la vista.
Hasta la vista, that's a good, whoever did the localization for that was definitely a good translation in English. And I do like they make the stars with their fingers too. I thought that was cute. Definitely felt like some good camaraderie going on there. Like an actual group that was like, we're a group because we need to exist and we're pals.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
it's just fun to give them some connective tissue, make the bad guys relatable in some fashion.
Yeah, I mean, they even had like flashbacks to like before they were part of Team Star. Like since when do we get like flashbacks on like antagonists, like pseudo antagonists, of course? But I thought that was like cool to look to, because Atticus, he's wearing his like super edgelord like poison getup, and so it's like you had some flashbacks when he was like just a normal person and didn't care about fashion as much as he does now.
Yeah, I think the only other like bad guy team that I would call relatable, again, turns out Black and White, decent stories actually. N was relatable. At least he had a relatable end goal.
Right. Z, right? Is that what we're talking about? Z?
N.
N?
N?
Name was N?
Yes, N, thank you.
Which is just a Z on its side, really.
I mean, yes. I was like thinking, like, was there like a reveal later where he reveals his name is actually Z that I forgot about?
But I would say, like, N is like a relatable character where, like, I could probably relate with anybody from Team Star on the basis that they got together.
Any of the like leaders, I would say yes, but I think a lot of those peons are just in there because they're bullies, and they're like, this is where the bullies can hang out and be mean.
There's a reason why I didn't remember his name. His actual name is Natural Harmonia Gropius, so it's N for short. That's
Gropes the harmony.
I just learned something about like one of my favorite Pokemon. I love Black and White. I had no idea his name was short for anything. I thought it was just N.
Yeah, they could have come with something better, but N works. In that case.
We'll take it.
I did really like Mila. I will mention her design. She's like the fire Team Star.
Those boots.
Those boots are sensational. Like her actual like 2D sprite artwork is really cool. And I just think that's like a great, whatever they did with her design, they just did a great job on her. Like she looks like she needs a Mega Houndoom.
Yeah, I could see her using a Mega Houndoom.
She has a regular Houndoom in the rematch, but she definitely needs a Mega one because it will go with those boots.
Yeah, absolutely. A little overdone perfectly. That just fits in perfectly with that.
Yeah, for sure.
So Holden, you keep saying you're weak to poison and ground. What was your team?
So it varied. I was moving a lot of mon around. Like for a while, I rocked Sandy Gas because I needed some ground type.
Mm-hmm.
I used Halucha for a while because he's one of my favorites. I used Finizen for a while. Learned that I can't evolve Palafin without you have to be in multiplayer mode, so you have to go to like the Pokemon Center and like, because I thought Palafin was really cool. I don't know if you guys are super familiar with his gimmick. Because Finizen and Palafin look exactly the same. The only difference is Palafin has a heart on his chest, but he has a hero form. When so you should probably lead with him. So he's the first mon you put out, and then you take another mon out and bring him out again, and then he evolves into hero form, which is he literally looks like a little like dolphin superhero, and his stats are equivalent to that of like an Uber legendary. Like he has 160 base stat when he's in hero form. So it's like such a weird like thing that I was like, I have to like finagle with it. So I had that for a little bit. But my final team that I was rocking with, so of course Grimmsnarl, aka Shake. That was my lead. And I had Skeledirge, who I also alluded to, which was I named Cayenne, like a cayenne pepper, because that's what he looks like when he's Fuecoco. And then I wanted to make sure I had Pokemon I've never used in any other run before. So I used Lucario, and I'd never used Lucario before. He just had a really good move pool. So even though he turned out to be probably one of the worst Pokemon on my team, his move pool was like really good. So it was good to like diversify like with what my other mon were doing. And then one of my all-time favorites, Bisharp, finally got an evolution, and King Gambit is badass. I love the way King Gambit looks. So he's like probably my number 2 or number 3 favorite mon from Gen 9. And as soon as I like learned about him, I was like, I gotta get one on my team. He's so cool. He has a really specific like evolution rule. You have to defeat 3 Bisharp that are like leading a pack of Ponards. And so you have to specifically find those and then defeat them with your Bisharp has to get the last hit on it. And once he does that, then he can evolve to a King Gambit. It's a really, really weird requirement. I had to look it up in order to get it. But King Gambit's really good. He's got like a dark type move that does not miss. And he just was like had some really, really good coverage for me. And he was just always, his attack is 135 base. It's insane. And then I had Rodham. I've used Rodham before, but I've never used Rodham Wash before, so that's my lying to myself. Just I needed a strong water type, and then also the fact that I could use Discharge that gets stab bonus. So I was like, okay, cool. Hydro Pump, Discharge, Thunderbolt, whatever. And then for the longest time I was rocking Tinkaton, and I was like, oh, I love Tinkaton, so cute, so great. But then I realized Fairy Steel. I already have Grimmsnarl. I'm not changing that one out. Steel, I already have King Gambit. Like there was like nothing that Tinkaton was doing for me coverage wise, and I was really needing a rock type. So I was looking up a bunch of different mon. I'm like, what's the one that's like the perfect fit? And then it found me. Its evolved form is Glamora, and I looked at it and I was like, what the hell am I looking at? It almost looks like a sphincter. But then I realized if you look at it from the backside, it's actually like a flower. Like it's a flower with like something like a bud. So it looks almost like a hibiscus flower from the backside, but from the front, it definitely doesn't give the right impression. And it's a pre-evolved form. Glimmet is just also like a flower bud. It's not a great design, but it's like move pool was super good. Its stats were really good, and it had a ability Toxic Debris where he would like you hit him and he throws out like toxic spikes and like poisons people for hitting you. So I was like, okay, great. I'm like, let me give it one. And then I realized Glimmet has a 1% chance to appear. So I hunted for like 3 hours, and I made sandwiches so that the rock types would appear more often, or he's rock poison. So then I did poison types would appear more often. And I just kept leaving and coming back. And the area where I watched a video to catch one, it never appeared. And so I was like, okay, where's a lower level one I could find? And then I found another area, and they're like, yeah, if you eat this before you go in here, you'll find one for sure. And I actually found one in the same place they found that. So I'm like, man, I don't know. But it spent hours finding this damn Glamora, and then I used all my EXP candy and leveled that guy up so he was matching it. Because I got him right before I took on Elite Four, and Glamora was a badass. I love Glamora. He's probably second favorite, maybe again third favorite for this generation. Not a great design, but I named mine Hibiscus, and it was just a cute little guy. Great stab moves like rock poisons, like really cool. Had good coverage, and That was my team of 6 in the final Elite Four.
Nice. Yeah, I only ever saw Glamora. I mean, I think the champion, not your rival, but the other, the like real champion or whatever. She has one, right? And then see them.
Yes.
They're like all over the place in the underground. At least in Violet, I don't know if they are in Scarlet as well.
Yeah, they are there, but to get one before you beat the Elite Four, that's where the challenge came. But yes, Gita has one. That's her strongest mon.
What was your team looking like, Chris?
I had Quaquavel. We talked a little bit about Skeleturge's special move. I like that they all have a special move that boosts a stat, but definitely Quaquavel, whatever the hell, he got the shortest end of the stick because like he's already pretty fast and you don't really need much more speed on him, and his just raises speed, whereas the other two raise special attack and raise attack, which is like you always want more of those. So
right.
So yeah, not the best in terms of stuff there, but he was fine. And then I had low kicks, the bug dark that looks like it should be a bug fighting. I really like the look of him. I know Ryan, you hate him. We'll rank him eventually. Get mad. Holden, where do you stand?
Low kicks was cool. I just realized he was really weak, and so I was like, I can't use him. I thought he looked cool. Once I found the low kicks helmet, I put it on my character and just ran everywhere with the helmet. I guess looking at his stats now, I mean, attack and speed, I think it's just he's really low HP, but he seems like a pretty decent for like a 2 evolution mon.
Yeah, I did. I almost used a that's something we haven't talked about at all. The terrastalize. I caught a terrastalized version of him that had fighting type, and I almost used that, and I probably should have, but it was a little lower level than the one I already had, so I stuck with had. But that would have been smart. Considering I really only use terrestrialization to like get a slightly stronger move off every once in a
while. Yeah, and the fact that he does learn axe kick, which is really strong, and if you get a stab bonus on that, then that's like he'll one hit KO like with fighting type.
For sure. And then I had Doxpun. A good tank for my team. I had a couple of good tanks. Definitely, like, this game was not challenging, but I think it's a little more challenging the last couple, not including RCS.
Yeah, so I think it's the most challenging I've played recently.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I don't know, it's probably more challenging. I don't know, the near the end of Arceus has some very challenging fights. I would put it above probably this, but for the most part, you're not even really fighting throughout most of Arceus, so to call it the most challenging, it's like it's really just because those game fights are difficult. And I say difficult very lightly. Still, yeah, it's not going to compare to your personas or anything like that ever. But yeah, it was useful to have a couple of nice tanks, and Pure Fairy type's a nice tank type as well. Obviously, he's just freaking adorable.
Who?
And then I had Garga, and I'm curious how you say this, Holden. Do you say Garganackle or do you say Gargasalt?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it's Garganical, but I do like Gargasalt better.
Yeah, I pronounced all 3 of those, just replacing NaCl with salt, and I think they sound better.
Salt stack is much better than Knackle stack.
Yeah. But yeah, he's like stupidly tanky, and he has an exclusive ability, Purifying Salt, that makes him immune to all status conditions and has damage from ghost types.
In competitive, he's like the best Generation 9 mon, period. Like everyone, it's like a general consensus that he's the best. Even if he's not banned or like Uber, I think he's just OU. He's just like the best, like the most difficult to deal with because of that Purifying Salt.
And then I didn't really like this mon, but I had it because it's I'm pretty sure the first and only grass fire type, Scovilian.
Ooh.
He's like, his stats are not great. He's kind of slow. He's got good attack and special attack, so he could kind of like be mixed. But yeah, I don't think he's like great mon, but he was fine. His design is okay.
I love Scovillain. I think he's such a, like, the fact that they're referencing the Scoville scale as a actual name is great.
Good name.
But then also the fact that he's got a 2-headed, one head is grass, one head is fire, and he's grass fire, which is not a very common mix. of Pokemon, and then just the fact that like he just looks so goofy. I really wanted to use one. I caught one and I used it maybe for one like Titan battle or something, and he was very helpful for that Titan battle. But I was like, I already have Skeledurs, like I don't need another fire type. But the spicy pepper Pokemon, he's a little spicy boy.
Yeah, I wish he was a little more useful, but I like him overall. And my last mon was Kilowattrel. The electric flying bird. Always like an electric flying bird. Several of them. They're always good. He's super fast, high special attack. Worked out well. Not a super interesting mon, but I like them.
Decent design. We've got some good crossover there, Chris, with final teams at least. Because I also had a Doxbin that my only Pokemon I nicknamed this run P. Leia. Because what else would you name a Doxbin?
I don't get it.
Princess Leia?
Yes. He does have the buns.
I also had a Kilowattrel by the end of the game, although most of my run I was using a Pawmot as my electric type. And I also had a Lokix because while I don't like the design, I do like the effect of using that Pokemon. I had what's the little Tarantula? That's the guy. I tried one of them first, and when it evolved into Spidops, I nearly recoiled because I'm like, what is this French fry arm looking motherfucker on my screen right here?
Oh, he's awful.
Had to replace him. And found a Nimble, took it, and like I said, I like using Lokix, but that design does nothing good for me. I don't like the way it looks. I used a Clodsire. I'm a big Wooper fan from back in the day. You know, I love my Gen 2. Clodsire's great. I love what they've done for the regional variant. I obviously had a Skeledirge because I started with Fuecoco and an Arboliva. I tried that little Smoliv grows up. It's the first time I ever stuck with anything that just tacks on normal for no reason.
Yeah, I mean he's a kind of a tanky special attack hitter. Like not too bad. He's not going to outspeed anything. He's super slow, but Arboliva, it's a fun design at least.
Yeah, and definitely useful on the team. I had no issues with the end of the game, but I was also a little over leveled because I was doing a bunch of the raids and getting those XP candies and just being dumb. By the time I hit the Elite Four, I was like in the level 70s.
Yeah, I was right there with him. I was like 60 to 65 was my last spread.
Yeah, I don't remember my spread, but I was like on par for most, so including the end.
Yeah, on par. So we mentioned it, but now let's talk about it a little bit. Terastallization. Why must Pokemon keep giving us these incredibly difficult words to pronounce?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the camp that it's their worst gimmick yet. They're least interesting to me. I don't know how it's working out in like competitive play. I'm sure it's full. Or were they allowing it? I don't know. I know there was some conversation before about whether or not they'd allow it.
Yeah, they're allowing it right now, and it's actually for the most part people are just using it for stab bonus. So if you are already a rock type and then you terastallize as a rock type, you just get a bigger bonus towards your rock type moves. So a lot of people are just using it as a way to make your mon even more like super effective, and you can use a little bit weaker mon. But then some people use it for coverage. So, and if you bring out like a Dragonite, you can terastallize it to something that is, you know, either counters ice or fairy, which people will typically try to use to stop your Dragonite. And that, for that reason, this is Dragonite's best game since the original. Like since Generation 1, this is the best game to use Dragonite competitively.
That's cool.
Wow, that's interesting.
Big boy. What do you think, Ryan? Terastallization.
I agree that I think at least aesthetically, it's the worst thing they've tried to do. It's definitely low on the bar for them. You know, trying to do something fun and creative with more like kind of post evolution stuff for Pokemon to be able to do. I think it's got an interesting, like, I like what it could mean for combat in Pokemon, like having that extra hidden layer that trap card, you know, haha, you've activated my trap card. I really do like the idea that that could influence, but if you don't play competitive, AI are probably not going to use it that interestingly because it's Pokemon and I don't play competitive. So
Yeah, I mean, I think the only people that had it were like the gym leaders, right, for the most part, and they just literally like used it immediately. They just had one Pokemon that like literally did not match their type at all. So it's like, well, I know
Right.
what you're gonna do. You're gonna terastallize that into your type.
Right.
Yeah.
So this has got to rank them all. So should we rank all of the gimmicks?
Oh.
Oh,
All right. So there was no gimmick in Generation 1 because that's the base, right? That's our baseline. So in Generation 2, the gimmick was Pokemon hold items,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is a great mix-up. I mean, when I was younger, I was like, why would I make my Pokemon hold anything? And then I realized, oh, when you make them hold stuff, it totally changes the way that they play in the game, and like you can give your Pokemon leftovers, and they
and
keep on
that's
like
when you change your name
regenerating
to
health.
Holden.
That is it. Yes. Yeah. Before that, I was let him go, and then I was like, no, we need to hold him on. So
Yeah, man. When I was talking about gimmicks, I like started at megas, but yeah, if we're considering held items a gimmick, like yeah, that's number one, I think.
okay. So then in Generation 3, we introduced double battles. I feel like that has gone by the wayside. At least in this game, I don't think is it double battles, or maybe
Even
if
in
there was.
competitive?
No, there is, but I mean, like any trainers, there's no like previously, like in Gen 3, there's like, oh, there's the camera woman and the guy with the microphone, and that was you fight both of them at the same time, or one of the gym leaders was a double battle with the twins, and so I really like the idea of double battles because there's a lot of mon that like specifically were either made for double battles, a lot of moves that are, like benefit from that, or just some stuff it's like, oh, you can't use discharge in a double battle because it attacks everybody, even your own teammates. So it's like you got to think about that kind of stuff, which I feel like is a fun wrinkle to the game.
Yeah, I like double battles. I liked especially in Emerald, and then they kept doing it in later games as well, where they made it where you could like line up double battles with just random trainers, or you could do them as singles if you wanted. They're just both looking in the same direction, and you run into the crosshairs and you get a double battle, which is fun. Um, but yeah, like trying to think. I mean, I guess right now it's number 2. It's below held items, but yeah, I don't know. I do think it's more interesting for like competitive for sure.
All right, in Gen 4, we did online play, which I think was just a natural evolution. I mean, people were already battling via connecting cords and whatnot. And once Diamond and Pearl finally came out, it's like, oh, you could battle your friend, or even in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I remember the first time I was like, all right, are you on? Like I'm calling someone, you're on? Okay, meet me down here. Are you there? Okay, sweet. Like that was like a revolutionary moment where I could like just finally like play with somebody in a different state and like actually battle them with my team.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely like that's one of those things that was going to come at a certain point, and it just happens to be Gen 4's. But who's going to say no to online play in a game like Pokemon?
Yeah.
Gen 5, this is going to be my least favorite. Triple battles and rotational battles.
Yeah, I mean, they just immediately abandoned that shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think that's got to be the worst one for me. I just don't. It was just too much going on, and I mean, I know you guys speak fondly on Gen 5. I think Gen 5 is the worst for Pokemon, like actual like the designs and like concepts and even the starters. I just think Gen 5 is the worst like Pokemon total. Even if the games are like the best writing they've probably ever had, the actual designs are bad.
Yeah, which is why I think they're contentious.
Right. Mixed feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In Gen 6, we got Mega Evolutions, which I think for me is even better than online play. I love Mega Evolutions. I feel like that gave second life to otherwise useless Mon. And it just was like such a interesting idea that I wish they would bring back because there's so many. It's like limitless. Like you could make a Mega Evolution out of anything, any single Mon, any legendary. Everything could have a Mega Evolution, and it just gives a new life, a new hope. Makes, especially in the competitive scene, which I'm obviously the most I talk about here, it just really makes things interesting because you could have a Gengar with a Gengarite, or you could just have a Gengar with choice specs. You know what I mean? You never know what that Gengar is actually holding when they come out. So it's like the fact that it's a held item, it kind of combines like what Gen 2 made great and then just made it even like a cooler like option.
Yeah, megas are amazing, and I feel like the gimmicks they've done since then have just been like, let's kind of do megas again, but not as good every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we're cool with Mega Evolution at number 2.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. In Sun and Moon, they introduced Z moves. I will defer to you guys. I never played Sun and Moon. That was the only main lines I skipped. What do you guys think about those?
That they just waste a ton of time, and it's just like I said, it's like mega but worse because it's like you're just doing one super attack that'll probably kill something in one hit and then done.
Yeah, pretty boring. It's just an excuse to get like, ooh, fancy cutscene. But once you've seen the cutscene once,
yeah,
you've seen.
Yeah. So to me, that sounds like underneath double battles at number 5.
yes.
Okay.
That only puts it above triples, right?
Yeah, triple battle.
Okay.
Only puts above triple battles. And then in Pokemon Sword and Shield, so that's Gen 8, they introduced Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing, which I think Gigantamaxing is pretty cool because obviously it gives it another form. It becomes another thing that God Rank 'em all can rank. And it gives some uniqueness, even has a unique type of like a Gmax move. So it not only does it give it a special move, gives it a special form. It's pretty cool. As far as Dynamaxing, I don't think it's as interesting. It's just like big O mode, and then you have the concept of like, well, are they actually big, or is it just a astral projection or a hologram? Like, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, Dynamaxing was pretty lame. It's very similar to Rascalizing, which we'll talk about in a second. But it's like Gigantamaxing was really cool, but the fact that you had to have, first of all, it was only very specific mon, obviously, that Gigantamax, but then also like it's not like, okay, you have this mon, so now I can Gigantamax. You had to like get it from the raids, or you had to do a weird thing in the DLC where you give it a bunch of candy or some crap to make it a Gmax version. It was just super annoying to get mons to be able to.
Yeah, I remember talking to you guys about it on the show, and it sounds like you guys didn't even do the raids for the Gigantamax mons. Whereas like I specifically was like, oh, I joined a Discord. I was like, all right, who has the Lapras Gigantamax that's going on right now? And they're like, oh, I do. Here's my friend code. I'm hosting it all day or whatever. And apparently, if he chooses or he or she chooses not to catch it and just leaves after you beat it, everyone else can catch it and take it home, but they can just host it all day. And they can just keep on like doing it, which was like a really cool like workaround to like be like, oh, okay, here's the Gmax Lapras now. I can use that one and I can catch that one, which has a really like powerful aura that it does, and it looks badass. So it definitely is a degree of difficulty, and therefore I'm gonna put it right above Z moves, but under double battles at number 5. Is that, you feel good with that?
I'm okay with that. Yeah. Yeah, but like you said, I never got a Gmax. Like I only got 2 Gmaxes, and that was in the DLC when they kind of like they basically let you make your starter a Gmax for free, and then your Urshifu is more or less free.
Right. All right. Well, lastly, that leaves us with terrestrialization. I don't think it's from what we've been talking about. I don't think it's worse than Z moves or triple battles. So to me, that sounds like above Z moves and under Gigantamaxing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can go above Z moves. That's fine.
Yeah,
we're talking like in the 900s on the normal. So we're that all 3
Right.
of those. So
I mean, I'm okay to put underneath Z moves because Z moves sound like they have unique animations, whereas like once you've seen all of the different types of like headwear, which I do think is kind of stupid that it's just like crystal headwear, it doesn't really add anything in game, and it just feels like a cheap way to just change this type. I feel like they could have done something better. Like I like the concept, you get to change the type, but maybe it could have been visually more interesting, or like I don't even know, like if they were ground type, maybe just like cover them in mud or something that's like actually like more dynamic rather than everything just looks like a shiny version of itself, and like not good shiny, just like actually reflective, and the crystal theme doesn't even match with like anything really going on with what's like the whole entire Gen 9 is about.
Yeah, which I mean, I understand why they did what they did, because, you know, it's a lot easier to be like, okay, we made 18 pieces of headwear and we can just stick it on every mon as long as it's not, you know, flipping too badly or anything, rather than, you know, making every single mon be able to be covered in mud or covered in water or whatever. Would have been more work, but maybe they should have done
Yeah,
more.
that's fair. But yeah, they should have done the work, or at least give us a few special ones, because Z moves have special, unique animations, unique for mons, whereas Terrorization doesn't have anything unique for any certain mon. It's a catch-all. Every single mon will have the same exact headdress if they change the water type. You know what I mean? Whereas they should have done something to actually make it unique and special to certain ones. So at least your starters have like Gigantamax. That is unique and special to certain mon, and even though it's not a lot, enough to be like, oh, that's cool. Whereas like you just can't say anything cool about terrestrialization.
Yeah, I think the first time we saw terrestrialization, I assumed it was like Dynamaxing, where they would have also Gigantamax equivalents, like ones that completely changed form, but they just don't.
Right. All right. So for anyone at home listening for this detour that Holden took us on, number 1, we got Pokemon hold items. Number 2, Mega Evolution. Number 3, online play. Number 4, double battles. Number 5, Gigantamaxing. Number 6, Z moves. Number 7, terrestrialization. And number 8, triple battles. And that's the ranking of the Pokemon gimmicks.
Just proving Gen 2, you know, still
The GOAT.
the GOAT. Yeah, absolutely.
Just don't play the original game.
No, play Soul Silver and Heart Gold if you're gonna.
Right.
I mean, the remakes are absolutely the best way to enjoy those at this point.
Naturally.
You know, I'm looking here at the things that got removed and it didn't even click, but can we take a moment and have a moment of silence? I'll not actually though, because it's a podcast.
Right. Terrible.
No more ledges.
Were those in Sword and Shield?
In the roots, right? Maybe not in the open world areas, but there had to be some in the roots.
Huh.
I mean, I guess I don't know how that would even work in this game, though.
Yeah. It's like, I get why they're not in it, but you know, they've been a part of Pokemon for.
They have been annoying ever, so do away with them.
Yes, a bad part. I do like that I can just climb over everything now. Like that is the best, probably one of the best parts about this entire game, is that you can just kind of traverse as you need, especially in the end game. You can just go wherever the hell you want. And so anything that I'm like, oh, did I explore there? I could be like, let's find out, and just start climbing literally up a horizontal wall, which is a great choice.
Yeah, it's the best thing that every developer has taken from Breath of the Wild. Not that Breath of the Wild invented it, like Assassin's Creed was doing it way before, but everybody takes it from Breath of the Wild. So
yeah, but the best part is they don't actually have like a stamina meter, so you can just indefinitely climb. So I would venture to say better than Breath of the Wild.
I would also say better. Breath of the Wild stand.
Yeah, we got 3 big Pokemon fans here, so that makes sense that we're all in agreement that better than Breath of the Wild.
Yep, and I'm glad we're all in agreement that Pokemon Violet and Scarlet are better than Breath of the Wild. And we need it's recorded.
And more technically proficient too.
Oof. Okay. You mentioned it. Let's talk about it. That's the biggest thing that held it back from getting any higher. We can do final scores at the end, but it just did not perform well at all, and it just constantly was just buffering in and out of stuff. You could clip through and see the side. If you're on the side of a hill, you could see the other side. I would catch a mon, and then there'd be another mon sitting right on top of me, so I'd go into a battle because they just clip through you and just walk right on top of you. I had literally had one of the end battles with Professor Clavel. It takes place in the actual schoolyard, right in front of the academy, and as he comes out, there's just a NPC walking right through him. And so like he has this dynamic thing where he's saying something to me where he's like, oh, I'm actually the Team Star direct leader. And I was like, damn. And then someone just ruins that moment completely. And I'm like, oh, what the hell is this? And just that constantly happened time and time again.
Yeah, that happened to me as well. And like as they walked through him into the fight I was having, their head disappeared. Or no, I just looked up the clip I saved. Their whole body disappeared. It just became a floating face and hair. It
Mm.
was absolutely terrifying.
Wow, Assassin's Creed Unity stuff right there, baby.
Well, I just don't get how they could have play tested this game and been like, it's ready to go on the shelves. Yeah, like every person who play tested had to have technical issues. Like I'm sure they were okay with the pop-ins. Like, hey, pop-ins are gonna happen, no matter what, whatever, it's gonna happen. But when it became more than just pop-ins, like I did have several crashes. Like thankfully the game has a good auto saving system and it auto saved all the time. So I was never like really in trouble. But I had like 2 or 3 crashes where it just like they essentially the Nintendo Switch blue screened and I just had to like reboot the system. I'm like, well, that's great. Thanks, Pokemon Violet.
Yeah, I had that once
I
or
never
twice
had
as well.
any crashes. I don't remember having any crashes. But I mean, constant frame rate issues.
Yep.
Just and this is even with, because I know very early on, I think it was you, Chris, who told me that it had a game had a memory leak when it first came out. Yeah, so I was constantly, whenever I was not playing the game, closing the application and turning the Switch off, not just letting it sleep to build up worse and worse memory leak on the RAM. And still just constant issues, constant frame problems, pop in way worse, frame problems way worse than Arceus had, in my view.
Yeah.
And just technically a bit of a mess.
Yes. And the worst part is they did do a 1.1 patch, but they did not do a 1.2 patch until like this month. So they had like 4 months on that 1.1 where everyone was still having issues, and they're just like, well, it sold units, the highest selling Pokemon game as of late.
Yep.
Is that ever going to change? Isn't every next Pokemon game going to be the highest selling Pokemon game?
Yeah, I don't know if there's ever a point where they run out of goodwill. Because, like, I mean, this game got slammed pretty hard for its technical issues, although people were generally, positive, I think, just like we're generally positive here. But, like, for sure, there were a lot of stories right when the game came out saying, hey, this game's a fucking mess, and people still bought it and because turns out not that many people are even paying attention to game sites that are writing that. They're just like, new Pokemon? Cool.
Right. No, it's already outsold every other generation of Pokemon, minus Gen 1, Gen 2, and obviously Sword and Shield sold a little bit more because it's been out for a little bit longer on the Switch, but it's already outsold every single individual game. So, like, I get it. I liked it, and I just wish that whoever those reviews into the ether are, and they're saying, "Hey, this is good, but this is why it's not better." I hope it's getting back to them. Like I just can't believe a world where it's not getting back to them. That this, like, the performance on this is just unacceptable.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, we were joking about it earlier, but the Pokemon Company just does not listen to anything anybody says. When people say, I love that thing, bring it back, they don't hear you care.
Wow.
So I don't know if they would, I mean, obviously they care about the technical performance, right? Because they are patching. I don't know if patch 1.2 that they just released fixed frame rate stuff or anything like that, or if they're just like, if they're at a point with the Switch where they're like, well, we want to do the game this way, and we are not a technically proficient enough team to do it this way without issues because of the Switch hardware.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 5-year-old console now, so I mean, you would imagine everyone's always rumored about the Switch Pro. It hasn't ever been announced or anything about it. I mean, even the OLED came out and it still didn't increase performance. It just made it technically a little bit better. And that's only in handheld mode. The OLED doesn't make any difference in dock mode, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. Which I have an OLED and play it like, say, 50-50. So don't know that it was the best purchase for me. But yeah, I did. From the last thing that I heard was that, like, the Switch Pro was supposed to, like, be a thing, but I think just because Switch sales were crazy or something, I don't know. There were rumors going around that, like, it was supposed to be a thing, it was supposed to be announced, but they decided to just go with the OLED instead, so that there was, like, parity, and you don't run into a new 3DS thing or whatever where they have like 4 games or whatever that could only be played on the new DS.
Yeah. So I went to Metacritic to see what the critic versus user scores are. Legends Arceus, and I went with Violet. So Legends Arceus, critic 83, user score 8.1. Pokemon
8.1?
Violet 8.1, which is pretty good. That's pretty close in parity,
Yeah, two. Imagine if they're both out of 100. That's only 2-point difference.
Yeah. Metacritic critics for Violet is 72, and the user score is 3.9.
Ooh. Hate to
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, look, I get it. A lot of people 0 pointed it, which why does Metacritic allow 0 points? That's not a thing. Come on. But
That's
a lot of
that's not a
people
real rating.
gave a 0 because they're like, oh, technical performance is terrible. So terrible game, 0. But like, I mean, what that really proves is that you just can't trust fan reviews because fans do not take reviewing seriously for the most part.
No.
Yeah. Some of them. At the very least.
No. And there's a whole mob mentality behind review bombing that's like kind of plagues any review site anyway. So it's not a good representation, but it is always interesting when it's critics are lower and then audience is higher. It's like, well, why is that? Like, what are fans willing to oversee that the critics aren't? So the inverse, I think, is a little bit more interesting. Whereas, like, when critics are hotter, it's like, oh, they're just reasonable people, and the fans are just unreasonable. Like, a 0 should be like a game that actually isn't playable. Like, you start playing it and you just cannot progress. Like,
And then
this game is very playable.
Console explodes, and it deletes all your old saves.
Or it you don't pick up a piece of paper, so you're hard locked out of finishing the game. Like something that like fucks you over long term for a product you paid money for.
yes, forever, and you'll just never be able to play it again or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I to the Pokemon company's credit and Game Freak, they're still coming up with great designs. And I think a lot of people, especially like the diehard fans, will be like, "Well, everything sucks after this generation or whatever." They're still coming up with really cool stuff, and they still haven't forgotten about Gen 1, Gen 2. Like the fact that Annihilate like exists is just insane. Like the fact that like in the lore, it's a dead Primeape that like is like reanimated as a ghost, and he looks like a badass Akuma. Like it's so cool that they were still willing to like show love and appreciation to like some of these older generations and keep them alive and give like actual regional variants in every game. Like I'm glad regional variants wasn't just a thing that existed in Alolan and they kept it through every game. Like that's a really, really smart choice, and I hope to see that continues through every generation.
Yeah, I kind of wish we had a few more this generation. We only had Wooper and Tauros.
For Gen 1 and 2.
No, that's like all the regional variants we had in Gen 9, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. We do have more evolutions.
Yeah.
But as far as regional variants, yeah, I think you're right. We didn't actually get that many, but the fact that we got new evolutions for already existing mons is pretty cool. Yeah. And you can now give a Bisharp Eviolite, which is the like held item that boosts their defense if they haven't evolved, and Bisharp just becomes like unstoppable at like lower tiers, like underused, which is like a cool way to reuse Pokemon that otherwise, again, wouldn't see life, just like what you did with Mega Evolutions.
Yeah, for sure. We did have I think it's just two that were very clearly regional variants, and they just didn't call them regional variants for some reason. Toadskool into Toadscruel, and then Wiglet and Wugtrio are very clearly just variants. But
yeah, because they're their own like specific types. But yes, I agree, those were regional variants, and I did like the idea of that. The fact that you'd run up to them and they'd start like walking away in the opposite direction. It's just so weird to see like their actual tentacles be used as feet. Like it just something about that was off-putting for me. And we did get 12 6 and 6 unique Pokemon that are not part of any evolutionary chain. They're past and future Mon, and I know you guys have talked about them on Gutter Rank 'em All before. But what's your general feel on? I mean, other than the obvious, Iron is a bad name for every Mon in the future. But what's your feel on the design between these 12 Mon?
The past designs are pretty cool, I think, overall.
Better. Yeah, better.
But yeah, the all the Iron designs are, I don't know, they're not as good as just the base designs on them. I don't think any of them are better. Looking at them now.
I will raise you one Iron Thorns. If you look at the 2D, and I'll put it in the voice chat text. If you look at the 2D of Iron Thorns versus Tyranitar, I think it's a cooler actual just design. Like it's like obviously Tyranitar already looked badass, but Iron Thorns, just something about his like the fact that he's all mechanical. He's got like definitely some kind of like energy that's charging him that becomes now spikes on his back. it's just a really cool like robot. It's something I could see Team Rocket, like Giovanni, creating and being like, "This is my Pokemon. Try to stop it." Unfortunately, we didn't get anything cool like that with. At least I guess I didn't. The end game was kind of short with these ones. I don't know if there's more afterwards that I didn't get to. But I wish we'd have got like actual story behind why they existed.
That's one of the things we found out as well during recordings is that their Pokedex entries are sorely lacking with any kind of detail or originality.
Yeah. Well, I guess because you can't give information about the future, but you could give it about the past, right? Because the past is history, but the future hasn't happened yet. So it's like, I don't know what they're like.
That's true. I suppose that's true. I don't know. Maybe it's my nostalgia looking at these. I think I'd still go with regular Tyranitar over Iron Thorns.
Well, I mean, he's one of your all-time favorites, so
yeah, absolutely.
The other Iron I would go to bat for, and I've said it before, is Iron Valiant. I like a lot. I don't know if I like it more than regular Gallade, but I might. I think they're close. I like Iron.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about him too. So that raises it to 14 because we have Iron Valiant, and he's got like a cool little like space sword, and we got Roaring Moon, who's the hammer and sickle from the USSR.
I might go up for Iron Jugulus, the Hydreigon.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. Not terrible.
See, I feel like the worst part about the irons is that either they look just exactly like the other one, like a robot version of it.
Yeah.
They just don't add anything special. Whereas like you look at Screamtail, that's clearly like a cool like little like almost like fan art of what Jigglypuff like should look like if mixed with like a psychic type Pokemon or something. You know what I mean? So like I appreciate that the past versions have like something unique about them that makes them feel like they're actually like they existed or they did evolve from this because of natural evolution into what we know them as today.
Right. Yeah, maybe I just like Iron Jugulus because I kind of like the way Hydreigon looks.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. To me, he just looks again like a bad Team Rocket one where it's like, you have a Hydreigon, we have Iron Jugulus, and it just comes out and like the mouths like are like all snapping and opening at the wrong time. Like, I just don't see that one. Actually, it's very strong, but I don't see it being as good as it is.
It loses its dragon. It's just dark flying.
That's why they got rid of the Gon at the end of the name. That's Dragon. Hydreigon.
Yeah.
And we got is that 2 Volcaronas? Is that what we got? We got a past Volcarona and a future Volcarona. Why? Yeah. Why do people like this mon so much?
That's what I'm saying. Thank you, Holden. Fuck.
Volcarona's great.
It's fine. It's fine. Like it's like a fire moth, but it's not something that we need to be creating a past and future version of because it's so like special. Like I mean, Iron Bundle, I wish it was an actual evolution of Delibird because it's so much better than Delibird. It's so good competitively. Like it's like so fast and it hits so hard. And it's a super glass cannon, but it's like really, really good competitively. And I just wish it evolved from Delibird because then you could be like, oh, Delibird's line is actually good. But now it's just like Pokemon that look like Delibird are good.
Also, we get 2 Donphans.
That's true.
That only makes sense because it's one of the Titan battles. So you have in Violet you have the Iron Treads, and then in Scarlet you have Great Tusk, and so that kind of makes sense because it's like okay, that's fitting the theme of the actual games, and in the Titan battles are kind of fun and different. You're like, whoa, what is this? A Pokemon from the future? What? So like that, I'll give it a pass for. But yeah, otherwise I don't think Donphan had Mega Evolutions or variants or anything like that in any other game. So I mean, I'll give the little what is he, like a armadillo rhino? I'll give him his due.
Yeah, I think
you know what?
Yeah, what is the? Now I can't remember the name of the animal. Okay, never mind. Just go Ryan.
I think he's got a decent love in the community, so I'm not surprised to see Donphan get some special treatment finally with some bonuses to him.
Yeah, I mean, give a dog a bone. You know what I mean? Like Volcarona's still a little wet around the eyes. Like he's, what is he, Gen 5?
Yeah. I'm a big Volcarona fan. I'm a big proponent for Volcarona.
Yeah, Black and White's the worst Pokemon. I've been on record to say that this episode. So
we mentioned just before we started recording the 4 legendaries that none of us have gotten. That
info or power, whatever looks.
Yeah, I mean they're cool. They're cool designs. I don't know what you have to do to battle them.
So did you find any of those like wrought iron poles?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
I
gotta
pulled all of
find
them.
those, and then there's like these large wrought iron round metal doors. I don't know exactly the specifics, but it has to do with those doors and those poles. You've probably got to find enough poles and then go to the door and it'll open and one of them will appear and fight you. If I had to guess.
Okay. Okay. I know Chin Pao is really good and competitive. I've seen a lot of him. He's super fast and has super high attack, 135 base speed. So I've seen a lot of him, and they use him and overused a lot. But otherwise, it's like a little fire fish type thing, and like like Ting Lu. What is it? I guess it's like a elk with like a bowl in its head. Like it's cool design.
It's just the bowl. It's just the bowl. Actually, it's a bowl of dread. We ranked that. The episode is not out yet, so you haven't seen it, but we ranked that.
It's cool. Like it's cool. I wish they had like actual story reason. Like Wo Qian's cool. It's like a little big like slug thing, like overgrown with moss. Really cool. Why? Where's like the actual connection to the story?
Yeah, those things are never explained. Those wrought iron poles. I found one of the doors or shields or whatever the heck they are, but they're never explained by anybody that I'm aware of.
Smells like DLC to me. And they're all 4 of them are dark type as well. Smells like DLC to me. Which I bought the Scarlet and Violet, or I bought the Shield and Sword DLC. I only did half of it. I only did the first half in the ice area.
I didn't even complete the first half.
I got my Galarian Slowking, and I was like, I'm good. This ugly bastard is mine.
Yeah, I like the DLC for Sword and Shield quite a bit. So, and I bought this game digitally because I'm certain there will be DLC. Excited for it.
I don't think it matters if you bought it physical or digital.
When I buy games physical, I resell them. I bought it digital, so I would not resell.
Gotcha. I bought it physical because I figure one day my daughter will want to play Pokemon. I'm like, here you go, just slapping the cartridge. I will
talk to your daughter in a few years.
Yes. All right, Claire, but get your Pokemon Pokedex book ready. Flip it open to the 9th gen. All right, start catching them. That's how I talk to her now too. I'm like, are you up from your nap, honey? All right, come over here. It's time to change your diaper. I do want to mention the new items are great. Specifically, I put loaded dice on my Lucario. Loaded dice is an item that loaded dice always rolls a good number, ensuring that the holder multiple strike moves hit more times. So if you have a move that usually hits 2 to 5, instead it always hits 4 to 5. So it's only good for Pokemon that have multiple hit moves, but it turns like Pin Missile into like 100 accuracy, 100 power every time because it's like 25 or something. But the move that I ended up using it for was on Lucario. He has a ground type move that's called, I think, Bone Throw, a Bone Rush, and it hits 2 to 5 times, but instead it hits 4 to 5 times, and that would mean that it's 100 accuracy, 100 power, or 125 power. So that therefore it's better than Earthquake, which I previously had thought Earthquake was just the best move in the game because it's 100 power, 100 accuracy, always hits, does the most damage. But now Bone Rush with loaded dice, it's technically the best move in the game because they get 125 power, 100 accuracy. So it's just always slamming down on people. So
beating them up.
Yeah, and it can get through Focus Sash, which is huge.
Oh, right, because hits multiple times. That is huge.
Yeah, so it's real good for comp play, and it's just one of those moves that like only Lucario learns, him and Marowak. So good old Bone Rush, huh?
Good old Bone Rush.
Good old. Yeah, a few more little things that we haven't mentioned. I like the way that they handled learning moves in this game, where I mean, just like Arceus, you can basically just switch them out as much as you like. I was
Oh,
actually, I was upset the first time that I learned a fifth move because it looks exactly the same as the older games where it's like telling you learned a new move. Would you like to erase something? But you can turn that off, luckily, where you're just automatically learning stuff and you can switch them out whenever you want. You don't have to go through all the motions every single time. But yeah, the fact that you can just stockpile moves is great. You can also turn off it asking if you want to give your Pokemon a nickname. If you're me or Ryan and you don't want to give your Pokemon nicknames, you don't have to go through that prompt every time, because I was catching almost every Pokemon and I was not naming most of them.
A lot of people were upset that speaking of little things they've changed, that they changed it so you couldn't swap from set to switch in your battles, aka now every single time you would be asked, do you want to swap out your Pokemon between every one? Whereas previously you could actually change that where they wouldn't ask you that question, and that's how competitive play is, that you don't get to swap out during after you make a Pokemon faint. So the competitive people were annoyed by that small change, but you just hit no. It's a really quick interface.
Yeah, I mean, you can literally just still play it as set if you want to,
right?
Which is what I did, and honestly, it's fine, like, because I still played it as set. Because the last game, the remakes of Diamond and Pearl, I played as set, and I really liked it. I thought it brought a little more challenge, but in this case, like, I can still play it as set and get a little more challenge. But then if I am in dire straits, I can be like, you know what, I gotta cheat. I'm just gonna switch.
yeah. No, I definitely was switching out when I was like, oh, I'd rather not have this Pokemon die and lose out an experience in this battle, so I'm switching him out.
Holden, I know you said you ran away from school never to return. Chris, did you do any of the classes that they offered?
No. Like Holden, I was so fucking bored by all those classes. I was just like, I don't like any of these people. I don't want to be here. Like, a part of me wishes that the school was like a bigger part of the game, that it was like a persona thing where you're like hanging out with your classmates and stuff. But that initial dose of school was so exceedingly boring that I didn't want that.
That's fair. I went back and did all of the classes.
No.
Every single one of them.
No.
All the way through finals. They're worthless. It's not good. It's just listening to the teacher babble, paying attention, and they'll ask a few questions about the few things they babbled on. And when you pass the quiz, you get EXP candies. It's not worth your time.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. I'm glad that me and Chris had a bad case of senioritis, so we just ditched all the classes.
Sorry, going back to the stuff that you can't toggle. You cannot toggle experience share anymore. I think it was the first time you can't toggle it at all. Were you not able to?
That was in Sword and Shield, and everyone complained about it then too, because you're leveling it up, everything the same. But yeah, it's fine. It seemed fine to me. I'm like, whatever. I'm okay with it now. I'm used to it being part of the series, and it just helps level up other smaller mon who don't get out as often more. So I'm just like, whatever. Just leave it on. I guess it makes it a more even playing field. I think if anything, it just makes the game less grindy. So I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm not gonna go and die on that hill.
Yeah, it's not a big deal to me, and I never would have turned it off anyway. It's just a thing that you don't have the ability to turn off, and also I think battle effects you can't turn off. I don't know if this is the first time you're not able to turn off battle effects, but you are not. I never do anyways, but I assume speedrunners do. Maybe they're upset about it. I don't
know. I want to talk about two NPCs real quick. Nimona, she's our rival. I thought she was generic. I thought it was cool, however, though, that she was already a champion. So she was like, your rival was actually someone who was good, and they were like playing down for you. They're like helping you get through. And so like her storyline is like, oh, okay, let's battle here now. So it's funny that I ended up, like I said, I think my 5th gym was the bug type one. And after your 5th gym, you have to battle Nimona. So it's like I was battling like the level 8 Pokemon, and I battle her and she's got like level 45s. And I'm like, oh, okay. So this is like the pace that I should be on around to this area. So it was just interesting to see like the way that she kind of her story revolves around you and like pumping you up. She's your biggest fan, which is a cool way to have a rival. You know, usually they're either like the shy, timid type, or they're like, I hate you. There really hasn't been one that's like, yeah, no, you can do it, man. You can be where I am one day.
Yeah, I like Nimona. Yeah. She's my favorite rival in a while. But the rivals have just been pretty bad for a while, so.
Yeah. I mean, when your rival Blue, He obviously is the champion in what is that? In Gen 2, right? You have to fight him at the end. Fight red or blue.
No,
I think it's in Gen 1, right? In Gen 2, I think the champion is Lance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to fight red until Mount Silver.
So you have to beat Lance, and then after Lance, then you fight your rival again, kind of like this game. So after you beat El Capidor, I can't remember what her name is. After you beat Gita, then you get to fight Nimona again, which I guess is similar to Gen 2. But yes, in Gen 1, Red is the Elite Four champion, which is cool because then he's like kind of leveling up with you, but he's still your little asshole. The other, I want to give a shout out just real quick to my favorite gym leader, Tulip. I like her. Her little gimmick in her psychic town. She's like one of her best friends makes you do like a little like dance rhythm thing. All the little like gym like instead of actually going to the gym and like having to battle through like a gauntlet of people and do like a little puzzle, now you actually have to do like a task.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of interesting because it uses the town a little bit. I do like the idea of having like a gym puzzle and design for you to get through. I mean, I always found whenever you have to slide on ice kind of endlessly annoying in the old games, but I did like at least traveling, battling the grunts beforehand. And so now you don't even have to battle. In the ice area, you do like a downhill like ice race, and then it's against Brassius. You have to like push an olive into the like end zone of this like maze. Like it's really bizarre, weird things. But I appreciated that it was different. It gave every area a little bit of flavor, even if the towns themselves weren't actually interesting. They all kind of felt same-ish.
Yeah, for sure. The towns are like, they stand out less than the towns in any other Pokemon game because they're really just, I'm going to run to the gym about it, or whatever is here. I do also want to mention, I like the photos you get after every team star, every gym, everything. I just think those are very fun. Like we talked about the water gym leader before. He has one where he's like standing in the background, acting like he's sitting in your hand. That's very funny.
Yes, I like Kofu, and I like the idea of like bring him his wallet because he needs it to like gamble and bid on stuff. Like that's a fun like stupid task that you have to do for him.
Yep.
And then of course the fan favorite Larry. I liked him as a normal like just everyday guy, and then he had normal Pokemon. But where the joke paid off for me is the fact that he was in the Elite Four, and he's like, yeah, they want me to be flying type, so I'm flying type now, I guess. Whatever. Like he's just like your everyday businessman who's like trying to like get by, and he's like, this is just pays for the bills.
Yep.
Yeah, love Larry. The best Larry in gaming, dare I say.
Ooh, living like Larry. I love to hear it. I do think Poppy was a weird choice. She's a little girl in the Elite Four. She was like an 8-year-old. But I mean, hey, if you got the Steel type Pokemon to back it, sure.
Yeah, she like cries after she loses, right? I don't remember really.
It's a really gross design. I just something about it was like off-putting. The fact that she actually had like the baby bonnet on, and I'm like, I mean, I hope you're like at least 8 or 10, but it's just like a really too childish.
Yeah, let's not go that young again, Pokemon.
Yes, that's my formal request. I mean, and the worst part is like she's Steel type, which is actually like I learned a lot about myself this game. I'm like, what are some of my new favorite types? I used to always be Ghost and Fighting, so obviously Annihilate was a natural for me to love. But I think Steel type and Poison type have like definitely moved up the rankings in like my top 5 typing because I've learned that they both are really super useful and like they have a lot of cool mons. At least in this game, I had a lot of options with like Steel type and Poison type moves or Pokemon that I was like too many to choose from.
Yeah, isn't those are the two types fairies weak against too, right? Steel and Poison.
Yes.
The end.
Yeah. That feels about right.
One more thing I want to shout out. I just thought it was funny that like I think it's right at the end of the game you maybe right after you beat La Primera or whatever, you like invite her back to your dorm room, and what seems like almost like you're trying to get her alone in your room with you. It's very weird.
you know, I didn't think about that, but now looking back, yeah, it definitely sounds like you're the Rizzler and you are trying to pull a move on her. But fair enough.
Uh, my one more thing. What are their thoughts on the twist that our professor's actually dead this whole time?
Oh, oh my gosh, yeah. How could we not mention that? So
We
that's,
gotta
I
talk about
imagine
that.
that's the same in Violet and Scarlet, right?
Right. Yeah.
But is the difference in Scarlet is that she went to the past or and
Yeah.
died
Always
there or
interested in the
something?
past, went to the past, never came back. Had this robot that was like identical,
And she's Arwen's mommy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty identical. Yeah, I mean that's a heavy story that just really gets brushed through, and it's just
Yeah.
like, oh man, your mom or dad is dead. Oh man, I bet you thought they were alive all this time that they're talking to you. I wish that AI would have said something. Shoot. Okay. Well, glad we made it out of here. I'm glad my boss tip's okay, Arwen.
Yeah.
Have a good life.
At least we saved your dog, buddy.
Yeah. At least your dog's not dead too. Like what? Your dad and your dog? Like that would have been a tough week. That would have been really shitty.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
this
no.
game in a few different ways dives into like I say dives into it dips its toe into generational trauma in a really interesting way. That again, it doesn't completely deliver on, partially because of the lack of voice acting, but also it's just like, I mean, it's a Pokemon game. It's not gonna dive super hard into something like that. But
I mean, they wrote it. I mean, regardless if it's a Pokemon game or not, they wrote this into the game. Like they probably should have thought about it. Like, how is this going to be perceived by the audience? Like, are they going to really like understand what we're getting at here, or are we going to just fall flat on this way too heavy theme for a children's game?
Do they leave it vague enough for that reason, so you can ascribe kind of your own meaning to it to a degree by not nailing their own finality to it too hard?
Yeah,
or, I don't
I
know.
guess.
I guess that's
I
what
mean,
they're going for.
I like the way you're thinking, Ryan. You're really optimistic on this. I just think they fumbled it and they've never thought about the tone of a Pokemon game before. Like I just don't feel like that's that important to most Japanese publishers or developers. I don't think they really think about tone that much. That's why they're like, oh, we can go from like a serious like moment to like, oh, now you're a train, you're a human train running over people. Like they just don't.
Yakuza.
They're like tone doesn't. Yes, Yakuza. Tone does not matter. I think in Japan, it's just like it's that kind of place. And so the fact that it's like one moment you're like on this trail and like I literally thought the professor was just like held captive or something. Like I thought they were an AI or something in there, but they're really in another room. But it's like nope, this is was like I'm just leading you on. Sorry, like I knew obviously something's up and something's weird, but to have them like killed off, like there's no professor in this game. Like canonically, there's no professor in this game for the first time ever.
Yeah. Which also, what a freaking like departure from what a way to depart from the norm for the whole series, right? Like, not only are we not really going to have a professor that you interact with the whole time, we're going to have them there dangling in front of you the whole game, but turns out they're dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Wild. Absolutely wild.
Yep. And also, we were all hyped watching these trailers before the game dropped. We all talked about how many sandwiches we were going to make. I know you mentioned it, Holden.
Never
I think I made
sandwich.
like 3 sandwiches.
Never made a sandwich.
Preston and I made one together, and it was just bread, cheese, and pickles. It was a lot of pickles.
Yummy.
What a cute date.
I made it for a ground type power one. So I bought some ingredients to like and make my ground type stronger for like because I had like it was just like a weak little palo sand. I was like, I need this guy to actually smack. So I don't know what difference that makes. I did one for the catching power for that Glamora. I think I made like 2 or 3 for that because I bought a bunch of ingredients, and that's like every single town has an ingredient shop. And I was like, what? They're really pushing this sandwich without actually pushing it. Like, there's no reason to make them. And then I learned that if you make this certain kind of sandwich, you can actually catch a shiny palo sand really, really easily, like within like 10 minutes. If you just make this sandwich and then you go to this one beach and you just keep on like walking back and forth from these like these umbrellas. So I was like, oh, maybe for shiny hunting, if I want to go that far. But I really haven't shiny hunted since Heart Gold Soul Silver. Did anyone catch any shinies in their run through?
I didn't see any.
I didn't see any. No, got one in Arceus, and that's literally the only one I've ever gotten, I think.
Oh wow. I caught one shiny, and it's actually really tough to like determine because there's a lot of like different Pokemon just running around, and I'm just like, how do I know if they're shiny or not? I wish they had like sparkles or something coming off of them. They don't. I was a oinkadoink, whatever.
Oinkaloni.
Oinkaloni. It was a little Oinkaloni, and it's shiny, and I was like, that doesn't look normal. Because I know it has a couple different forms, but the shiny for Oinkaloni is not very convincing either. So I was just like, is that the female form or is that what am I looking at here? So that was just the one that I came across. But I usually see like 2 to 3 shinies a game in my playthroughs. I caught like 3 in Sword and Shield. But yeah, it's just the shiny Unkaloni is like a pink version. So it looks more like a proper piglet, like pig. Yeah.
Seems all right.
Yeah. Seems fine.
All right. So we're at the point, guys. Ratings out of 100. What are we feeling about Pokemon Violet and Scarlet?
Out of 100,
Yep.
90.
Okay.
Yeah.
Masterpiece. I like that.
83 for me.
You know what? That's exactly my rating. 83. You sniped me. I think it's a great game. Grade 3. I love so much about it. It definitely had potential to be higher. You know, like some of the tightest writing and most convincing. Like, there's so much good stuff about this game. It just sucks that they just fumbled at some of the keyest moments of it, and just really, really let you down as far as as a production value goes, and just kind of maybe over ambitious in some areas where it's just like when you go inside buildings, I'm like, oh, the frame rate is so nice in here. I think it's just 30, but I'm like, everything is so great in here. Like I love being inside these buildings. Like when you have to do the challenge for the food guy, you got to figure out I think I just clicked through that one. I don't even know if I did it correctly or not, but I passed whatever the food special thing was. I just kept on clicking, and it got it my first try. But I was like, this building is great. And so it's a weird place where you're like, I'd rather Pokemon appear inside than outside, just because of how much smoother it ran inside buildings, and there wasn't enough buildings you could even go inside that even made a difference anyway. So that's why I would give it an 83.
Yeah, I mean, I review everything that I finish, so I gave it a 9 out of 10, so it's a 90. The only Pokemon game that I would for sure put higher is Arceus, and probably I would put Heart Gold Soul.
Yes, I agree. Heart Gold Soul Silver is my all-time favorite.
But yeah, I did. Speaking of, I wish Pokemon appeared indoors. I did just remember the only story I saw, I think it was on Kotaku, about patch 1.2 is that they literally just reduced Pokemon spawns to try and help with the frame rate.
Wow.
Which is an interesting thing to do in this game that's all about finding Pokemon all over the place in the wild.
Yeah. I don't know that decision.
Yeah, I don't care for that either, because it's like already it was hard to find. Like, again, finding my Rotom and finding my Glamora was just like impossible, because there was just so many Pokemon that spawned that weren't actually the ones I was looking for. And so now it's like, if it's even lesser mon that spawned, like find that 1% chance. Like, I just don't even understand why that's so needlessly impossible to find this damn Pokemon. But neither here nor there. You guys aren't to blame.
No, we're here to commiserate with you.
Thank you. You are my fellow trainers that burn on in my heart.
We know the pain.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I doubt we're gonna get 2 Pokemon games in a year ever again.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was 3 games in 12 months.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because it was Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl within that same 12-month period, but within the same calendar year, 2 of them dropped.
Yeah, insane. They really need a. There's not going to be one this year, I don't think. So they could just.
There's going to be a. I mean, guess by the time this is out, it's already happened. But there's a Pokemon Presents next week as of recording.
And you think we hear about DLC? Yeah.
We hear about DLC, and then we hear about Detective Pikachu 2.
And also the second movie would be. I don't know that that's happening. Something green.
I don't know. Maybe you should definitely watch it, Ryan. There's enough there for like actual diehard Pokemon fans. That's like, yeah, I like this.
I'll try to make the time.
You have the time. Just make it.
All right. Well, everybody, that has been the spoiler cast for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, a game that gave us a lot of what we have been asking for, but still fell short in a few areas, I think is really what we can all agree on.
Amen.
Pretty much. Yeah. Holden, thanks for joining us, buddy.
It is my pleasure. I love both of you dearly, and Gotta Rank 'Em All is the one podcast that I see on my feed and always drops to the top of the queue because I have to listen. I cannot not listen. And I knew it like when I first heard about it, and I was like, I missed already 5 or 6 episodes. I was like, oh, this is my show. This is my show. I binged all 5 episodes. I'm like, when am I going on, boys? When am I out?
Put me in, coach.
Put me in. I'm ready to rank them, boys.
Do you have anything to plug, buddy?
Again, since you asked, I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to say anything about it, but I will now. Yeah, Gotta Rank 'Em All is my favorite podcast I've ever listened to, and you're listening to it right now. But I do my own podcast that is lesser than this one. It's called How to Waste Your Time. It is a podcast that if you ever wonder how you should spend your time, just like what I'm telling Ryan to do is waste his time more effectively. It's a great resource and place to do that. Recently, we just dropped our first annual award show where we handed out our award, the Wasty, to all of our favorite different pieces of content in the respective mediums of like our favorite movie of the last year. We give out nominations for our favorite TV show. We also have some fun superlative ones like our top 5 losers of the year, and then we award who was the biggest loser. And spoilers, this year it was my eyebrow and ego because I took a big spill and I have scar tape on my eye right now for those who are watching the video because I'm trying not to look like an anime villain, but damn it, I might.
Yeah, I remember the day your eyebrow took that out.
Yes, it took a big L. Everyone made jokes about it, and they said Holden's left eye because it was so swollen I could only see out of one eye. It was a good Jackbox night. I had fun. At least I was able to sulk in the one-eyed bandit that I was.
You know, Scar's a good story, right?
Or a dumb story, either one.
Dumb
One
stories can be good stories, you know.
Sure.
But no, I adore How to Waste Your Time. That's one of the shows that's always on my feed, always gets listened to. The Wasties were a great listen. I'm a big fan of your VO work throughout that episode, Holden.
Thank you.
So definitely everyone check out. I still have a couple sodas to get your way one of these days soon. But yeah, that's so yeah, check out How to Waste Your Time. Chris, do we have anything to plug?
Yeah, check out our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/friendlyfirepod. Just today, as a recording, I streamed the Sony State of Play. That was a lot of fun. A decent showing, some good release dates in there. Not like the most exciting State of Play, but for sure, you know, we're coming up on summer soon with Summer Games Fest and E3 and all that crap. So we'll be streaming as much of it as possible. And of course, Tyler and Tom most weeks are streaming Wasted. They're playing Anthem right now, and so is Ryan. So.
Yeah, which that game fun to play, but has more problems than Scarlet and Violet. It's
that's why it was critically and publicly review bombs pretty heavy.
Yeah. I mean, the moment-to-moment gameplay in Anthem does feel really good. The flying around feels really good. Like
Iron Man.
There's so much wrong with that game. But yeah, and you know what? The one thing I want to shout out is I'll be going to PAX East with one Preston Wilkie of the Level Zero podcast. We both happen to get media badges for that show. So we're planning on setting up some appointments and doing some interviews with some people. So look forward to some PAX East content coming up in about a month. something like that. It's about a month away. That's when that's happening.
Ooh, I'm looking forward to a little Draft Punks Friendly Fire crossover content. I like it.
Yeah, it'll be a great time. I'm very excited. This will be my first gaming con of any kind, and I get to go with like backstage access, basically.
Right. No, it's legit. When we went to PAX West, anyone with a media pass, they're like, "Oh, hey, media this way. You're not with all the other scrubs that way. That's your entrance.
You're not with all the other scrubs."
Yeah, like me. I was like, I do a podcast too.
And it was, the process for getting in there for the media batch, not that bad.
Nice. I'm jealous of you. We'll have to have a thorough debrief because that sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I think Press and I are planning on doing a recording after the show every night at our Airbnb.
Cool.
Getting on and just doing the same day debriefs. We're very excited. Whatever happens is going to be a great time regardless. I think we're going to get together sometime shortly as of recording and make some more specific plans. But yeah, I'm just excited. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah,
so
I'm excited for that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everybody for joining us as we finalized an important decision in our life.
One.
It was scoring Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah. And ranking the gimmicks in the Pokemon series.
That's true.
Two decisions.
2 decisions. That's right. We hope you are well until we reconvene to continue ranking Pokemon. Baldur's release date is hype, Chris. That's right. I see that popping up in our chat. We hope you are well until we reconvene. And remember, Professor's dead.
Rip.
Rip and pepper.
Salute to my king.
Ripperoni.
Gotta rank 'em all. Pokemon.